Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, I'm going to try something this evening. The thesis I'm going to try to sell tonight is that data is substantially a solution for us. And you go, huh? So I'm going to walk through a number of things that just came out in the new MedPAC report because, and look, I've only just started reading it, but there's a couple of interesting things. I'm going to try to walk through the reality of what drives debt and deficits like I do every week. I'm going to try to walk folks through some of the actual math instead of some of the hysteria that is modern politics where we make crap up because we don't tell the total details. And let's see if we can actually make any progress here on sort of the intellectual capital of this place. So just off the top of my head, Mr. Speaker, you've seen the stories of, the butchering of federal employees. Okay, let's walk through just some of the math. You got 3 million federal employees. If 77,000 have decided to take the early retirement offer, let's see, that's, God, dear heaven, I should have calculated this before, is 3%, 3% of the federal population. I have a chart we're working on, did not make my stack, to show the growth in the number of federal employees in the last decade. It's a little rich how many folks run around here and they want more spending for their projects, or they don't want this, or they don't want that, but at the same time, they're lined up at our doors and want more spending. If I could come to you and say, guys, we're going to try to find a way to make the way we deliver services much more efficient, much more rational. So let's actually sort of walk through a couple of the boards. This is one we start with a lot. And the number now is a bit more dour. This board's a year out of date, but I didn't want to spend the money to reprint it. Do you see the blue portion? Okay, this fiscal year, it's about 25% of all the spending is in the blue. That's what we get to vote on. That's military. That's what we call non-defense discretionary. We borrow about, let's see, last year for every dollar we took in taxes, we spent $1.39. So functionally, 39 cents. This year it will be a little better. We think it will be only 36 cents for every dollar we take in taxes. So what that basically means is everything you and I as a member of Congress vote on is borrowed. But we have this reconciliation budget. It's one of the few times where we actually get to talk a little bit about what's in the red. But we don't get to touch net interest. Interest is interest. And some of the math coming in right now says interest this year, this fiscal year, could be about 1.1 to 1.2. I actually am a bit more dour. $1 trillion, making interest functionally the second highest expense in the federal government. Until this reconciliation budget makes it through defenses like number 4 on spending. So Social Security, interest, functionally Medicare, defense. But when you take a look at what we're even allowed to talk about in a reconciliation budget, and you know why we do the reconciliation budget, it's so we can get around this 60-vote rule in the Senate. So we're doing all this dancing and stuff because of the Senate rules. But we can't touch net interest, and we're not allowed to go near Social Security. So think about that. That area on that last chart I just showed you that was red, the majority of it, we're not even allowed to talk about. We can't touch it. We can't do anything about it. So when you see the authorizations, that's actually why committees like Ways and Means and Energy and Commerce have such a lift. So what happens if I come to you and start to say, you have a country that's binging on debt. We're in extraordinary measures right now, so some of the daily debt calculations are a little screwed up. But before we went into extraordinary measures, we were in the $60,000, $70,000 per second every day, every second. If my math is correct and we come in at about 2.2 trillion, maybe 2.3 trillion of borrowing this year, you got to start thinking about that. So we take in about 5 trillion in tax receipts. We're going to spend about 7 trillion, meaning about 7.25% of the entire economy is borrowed this year. And if we don't get our act together, in 9 budget years, it could be 9.2% of the entire economy is borrowed. And I was just wanted to make the point, because I'd come here in the past, interest rates have fallen dramatically in the last couple of weeks, which, remember the seesaw? We've talked about the seesaw. When the economy is really strong, or there's a shortage of capital to borrow, interest rates go up, meaning the United States, we pay a lot more in debt servicing. When interest rates go down, that typically means the expectations of the economy are slowing down, meaning our tax receipts fall. So the middle of the seesaw stays the same. I saw some people getting giddy. Look, interest rates are down. It also means actually some of our modeling in the future quarters of tax receipts also are starting to fall now. So there's no free option anymore. But you've seen some of the discussions. Ray Dalio has been out there talking about, the heart attack of debt and what happens to other countries and the history of that. Going back, I think in his book, he's going back a couple thousand years. The United States, so here's functionally the world borrowing. China's borrowing about 17% of what we call the available capital for sovereign borrowing. Japan's borrowing about 10%. We're borrowing 40%. So we're about 25% of the world's GDP, but we're borrowing 40% of the money that goes to sovereigns. You got to understand the scale, the binging on debt. And when I get to the very last board, I'm going to show again the chart that just seems to upset people, but it's math. From today through the next 30 years, discretionary spending actually, according to CBO's 30-year model, actually ends up with it grows slower than tax receipts. But it's Social Security and Medicare. It's demographics. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's demographics. Where it becomes partisan is the unwillingness to tell truth about the math, and then actually the creativity of how we disrupt the cost. So how do you actually find some of these things? This chart's a little awkward. I would have designed it a little different, but sometimes you're running around. The point we're trying to make is, here was the effective interest in 2014 to the United States. Now, all of a sudden, we're up here, and the actual market rate we expect in the future to actually continue to consume, meaning interest is our great fragility in this country. I've told the comment many times, at our current rate of borrowing, we've almost put the bond market in charge of this country. Because if you have to bring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars to market every month, do you screw with your banker? In many ways, that bond market now is our banker. For my brothers and sisters on the left, who often want to attack the tax reform of 2017, attack tax receipts. I've done presentation after presentation behind this microphone using the stuff from the Manhattan Institute that basically shows if we do all the Democrats' tax hikes and then do the economic adjustments, often from Democrat groups, you get about 1.5% of GDP in new tax receipts. Okay, maybe we're going to be pushed against the wall and have to do that, but we're borrowing over 7% of GDP. So it's like on Social Security. It's common that the reframe is, well, just raise the cap. Okay. In 2033, Social Security Trust Fund is empty. Our brothers and sisters on Social Security will take 17 to 20% cut. We double senior poverty in America. And when someone says, well, just raise the cap, our model is in that next year, 2034, raising the cap only covers about 38% of the shortfall, and you've wiped out the cash and the other things you actually need to also save Medicare, which actually that trust fund runs out like 3 years later. So one of the reasons for this chart is trying to demonstrate something very simple, that back when, before TCJA, the 2017 tax reform, the actual projection of what tax receipts would be, so before the tax changes, we're right on track. You see the weird blip there? That was the remarkable amount of spending that happened during the pandemic. We actually just went back to nominal. So what happens here? What happens when there's this intense hunger to play this weird blame game instead of being willing to tell our voters the truth? The vast majority of debt this decade will be interest and healthcare costs, mostly Medicare. So one more contributions to the increase in spending from 2024 to 2035. Interest. So remember, why this chart is important. Let's put it in perspective. Baseline. This is actually with the taxes going up at the end of this year, just baseline. So following current law, not the clowns that actually run around saying, let's just avoid the law and just let's pretend what we spend, we spend. The law says we're going to borrow $22 trillion over the next 10 years. Okay, that's baseline. Here's the mix of that borrowing. 24% of that will be interest of the additional borrowing. Old age survivors, Social Security will be 31%. Discretionary, 13%. Other mandatory, 4%. And Medicare, 28%. Now, the fact of the matter is old age survivor, Medicare have their own trust funds, except for the fact that within that 10-year window, at least this trust fund is now emptied. Are we allowed to talk about it? Are we allowed to do the moral thing here and maybe stop the doubling of senior poverty? But yet, the fact of the matter is maybe I'm an idiot for getting behind the microphone and actually mentioning the word Social Security because there's someone writing an attack ad on me right now for trying to save it. It's just the sickness of this place. So let's actually walk through a little bit. I saw a number of folks who actually have been attacking DOGE and the attempts to use data. Understand that some of the communication skills are haphazard. But if I came to you today and said, let's strip any partisanship, we need to find waste, fraud, abuse, modeling issues where we're doing things the wrong way, where we have models that are decades, sometimes decades and decades out of date, would you hire an army of auditors? An army of lawyers? Or would you hire data scientists? Turns out, several years ago, Congress started requiring agencies that send out payments, that cover healthcare costs, that send out checks, these things, start telling us your error reports. Okay, so for 2023, we think the reports come back at $236 billion of improper payments. Okay, that's a stunning amount of money. But that doesn't mean there's $236 billion of improper payments that have been stolen. There's a bunch of it has been, but it's more complex. And an army of auditors, it would take years to grind through this. That's why actually the miracle of technology right now, hire some data scientists. They're really expensive. Most of them actually I've met recently actually are bathing. That's both funny and shockingly true. I met one that is an MIT dropout. Apparently MIT wasn't hard enough for him. But that's actually what he does. And the failure to access data information. Well, it turns out a whole bunch of what we label as improper payments, we lacked data on understanding. So what happens when it's the data scientists that will help us grind through? I just grabbed this one because Treasury itself, not just CMS, all the other agencies, Treasury itself has $21 billion of improper payments. When you walk through what those were and why they were improper. They didn't verify household size. They didn't verify the qualifications. They didn't verify these things. That is basically data. So let's actually have a little more fun here. Types of improper payments. Okay, we actually estimate of that 36 billion. And actually, this is for 2024. The other chart was 2023. 135 billion are overpayments. Now understand, for a lot of those, that may come through CMS, a Medicare reimbursement. CMS has the ability, months and months, a year later, to try to recapture those monies. What we're trying to get the data scientists to build us models to understand, okay, if there's 135 billion of overpayments, how much of that comes back to us and how much is, we'll call it leakage, even though leakage is with a B is, and then there's, we have 12 billion unknown payments. We know payments went out, but there wasn't enough data telling us what they were. We had almost 8 billion of underpayments where we underpaid people. So you see what I'm trying to provide here is we know we have a problem. We've known we've had this problem for decades. For the last decade, we've been tracking the problem. And it's only been the last couple months we're beginning to tackle the problem and try to use technology to dive into what are these? What are these categories? And understand, some of this you'll notice the huge spike in improper payment amounts. That's actually mostly from the pandemic when we were pushing money, shoveling money out of this place like crazy. But we've been tracking this since 2014. It's taken to now to find the technology, to find the talent to start diving into this math. And why is this just so important? If you're someone like me who believes there's trillions of dollars over the next 10 years that we can save by just modernizing the way we deliver services. You first have to identify the outliers, identify what's going on. But why is this so incredibly important? You've got to understand what we're up against. Outlays of the largest mandatory programs are projected to massively increase. So let's be a moment of brutal honesty. This is 2025. This is 2034, so functioning 9 budget years. Social Security will have a 61% increase in spending. It's just, this is our demographics. And I'm going to try to explain these numbers a little bit more. Medicare will have almost a 78% increase in spending over those next 9 budget years. Now, there's a little more for this because this has none of the offsets. So I want to try to provide a level of brutal honesty. Remember, on like Medicare, on some things you have a portion of copay, those things. So, but it's still a 75% increase, but it goes from $2 trillion spending, so 9 budget years, Medicare itself will be a couple $1 trillion, just the spending on that. If you do the offset, the payments the senior makes, okay, that's about $400 billion. It's still a 75% increase in spending. What would happen if I could come to you and say, if we would use technology, if we'd modernize? So here's the MedPAC report that came out in the last couple days. Haven't read the whole thing, read part of it. Here's last year's MedPAC report. We read all of it, highlighted it, and we actually make our staff read it. Well, it turns out around here, actually reading the actual math and the concepts. So if I came to you right now and said, like in here, there's a whole paragraph that's saying there's something wrong in Medicare Advantage data. Now, MedPAC report says Medicare Advantage, really important program. We need to keep it, but we're going to have to dive in on how to modernize how it works. Because here, Coding intensity, they made the adjustments for coding intensity, but it basically says, translates into a projected 84 billion, or 17% of total payments, meaning Medicare Advantage coming at $84 billion this year, more than fee-for-service. And that's with the adjustments for, renal failure and other things. Look, and I've already started to have the MedPAC report fall apart, so if any of you talk to the MedPAC folks, ask them for better binding on their reports. So what would happen if I came to you right now and said, we can do things to fix these outliers in costs and never cut a service by changing the incentives? Instead of the incentives that the MedPAC report talks about of scoring people as sicker and sicker and taking that additional spiff spending, how about a system that says, why don't we incentivize the providers in this program to help our brothers and sisters who are seniors be healthier? And that making your population, helping them be healthier, is actually your profit. Is that heresy? I would argue that's just good design. And we don't have a choice, because last week, the Joint Economic Committee, we published a report. And I chair the Joint Economic Committee, and I appreciate we have remarkably hardworking economists, and we're trying very hard, but we're willing to go to places that are politically dangerous but mathematically honest, which is something that rarely happens around here. But we tried to touch on things like how fragile is U.S. debt to higher interest rates. Fact of the matter is, I did a chart a couple weeks ago that showed if the United States went back to a 6% handle on U.S. sovereign debt. Now, you go, well, that's a lot higher than we're at today. Yeah, but go back to the early 2000s, we were right up against 6%. You do realize in 9 budget years, if you are at 6%, it would mean 45% of all U.S. tax collections go just to interest. We do a chapter here on the effects of obesity to our society, to spending, to longevity, to family formation. Last year's report came in over $9 trillion. This year, we even define it more to understand what happens when the single biggest spend in our society could actually be mitigated by helping our brothers and sisters in the country be healthier. Are we allowed to talk about that, or is that just heresy? Because once again, got to tell the truth, over the next 30 years, Social Security and Medicare represent all the borrowing. And it's like $116 trillion of borrowing. Discretionary, which we talk about a lot because that's where you find some of the really stupid spending, the shiny objects, is projected to grow slower than tax receipts. My point is, for everyone out there who wants to be enraged by the White House, enraged by those of us who are trying to find solutions, bring us ideas. Bring us actual math. Stop making crap up, but if you're going to give us ideas, actually maybe read your subject area first. You'd be amazed how many things we get, where if we just didn't have foreign aid, and we show the chart that it's a week of borrowing. Understand, you have a country that our baseline is going to be borrowing about $6 billion a day. How long do you think we can do that? So first, if we can find ways to do it better, faster, cheaper, read the actual reports that we've been given for a decade that actually have ideas in this, and be willing now to do the hard work of just using technology and data and modernizing. And Mr. Speaker, one of the insane things around here, when you meet many of the folks who are in our hallways demanding more spending, demanding more regulations, demanding more barriers to entry to protect their business model of their bureaucracy. They actually hate the discussion of modernizing. You're a medical professional. You know what you're doing. The fact of the matter is there's hope. I don't think there's a lot of more years we can wait, but there's ways to do this. How do we get this body, both our brothers and sisters on the Democrat side, that actually, if they'd be willing to work with us on saying, let's modernize. Let's embrace the technology. Let's do the things we know that if we were actually caring, just maybe not great politics, but it's really good economics and really good for the future of this country. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield back.